Meeting of the Everett School Committee for November 18th will come to order. We start off along with roll call, please.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Here.
Mrs. Cardello?
Here.
Mr. Panarisi?
Here.
Mr. LaMonica?
Here.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Ela?
Here.
Mr. Barros?
Here.
Mr. Aprazay?
Here, we have 8 members present. We have a quorum. Start by doing the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, before we get to Roman numeral 3, I'd like to welcome 3 newly elected school committee members, Samantha Lambert, Dana Murray, and Cynthia Sani, in no particular order. I don't know how they came up with that, was it? Yeah, was it alphabetical? Okay, like I said, that was by alphabetical order. Welcome, ladies. Roman numeral 3, reading of the records.
I move we accept the records of all 3 meetings as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept the records as written for all 3 meetings, October 7th, November 4th, and November 13th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Roman numeral 4, Reporter to Superintendent, Mrs. Guthier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 1, School Improvement Plan for Everett High School. I'd request Mr. Norman, Principal, Mr. Christopher Barrett, Vice Principal, and Dr. Easy, Vice Principal, to present the school improvement plan.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to have Mr. Norman, Mr. Barrett, and Dr. Easy present the school improvement plan for Everett High School. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Welcome, gentlemen. Mr. Norman.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for inviting us here this evening. It's a pleasure this evening to have the opportunity to talk a little bit about our school improvement plan at Everett High School. I've seen some of the other principals from the K-8 schools go, so I want to just kind of give an update on accountability. I've taken a couple of these slides right from DESE's School District Accountability Summer Fall 2019 presentation for how school accountability works. So basically on the slide that you see in front of you and at home, the biggest piece of this slide that you're looking is anything that's in orange, clear, actionable information, improving the performance of all students and assigning resources. So basically our accountability tells us how the school is doing and what kind of support does the school need from the community, from the school committee as we move forward. What you see in front of you now is accountability indicators for non-high schools. So if you're looking on the left, it says indicator, on the right is measure. So if we're looking at the K-8 schools in Everett, they have 4 indicators: achievement, student growth, English language proficiency, and then the chronic absenteeism measure on the bottom for additional indicators. So they have 4 indicators and 7 measures for their accountability. As we move to the high school level, we move to 5 indicators on the left-hand side and 11 measures of school accountability. So I've also taken this slide and updated it with the Everett High School's information for accountability. So if you look at achievement, English language arts for us, composite performance index, all students met target. Math CPI, all students met target. Science CPI, all students met target. So for achievement, we're meeting all targets. Student growth, we have typical growth in ELA and in math and SGP. SGP is student growth percentile. That's in the green. High school completion, our 4-year cohort graduation rate has improved. That's when students come in as a freshman and leave as seniors, been here for 4 years. That rate has improved. Our extended engagement rate, so for 5 years, the students that stay, it may take a little longer, but they stay, we've met target in that as well. Our annual dropout rate, we've also met targets there. Our English language proficiency, all students met target, and some of our scores are really off the charts with what's going on in the English language learners category. We did have a drop or a decline in chronic absenteeism, which I highlighted there. And again, if we're looking things that we can get better on, we need to really see what we can do to work together to make chronic absenteeism come back the other way and get more students into the building. And then the last indicator for students taking at least one advanced placement course, all students met target. And if you really look at the AP data, there's some data there that shows that our growth here at Everett High School for AP is really off the charts. And maybe at a future meeting I can present some of that stuff to you. So the top part of this is cut right from the DESE website about what's going on for accountability at Everett High School. So if you're looking, again, it gives the district name, the school, the region, we're coastal, Title I status, the grades we serve, basic information. The first piece is really what you're looking at for accountability information is overall classification. Our classification is not requiring assistance or intervention. If you recall, I think when we started, when I first came to Everett High School, the school was about to be taken over by DESE. But we've moved so far in coming to where we are now that we're making moderate progress and we don't require assistance or intervention. When I first started, we were at the time, it was a level 3 kind of assistance, and we had DESE coming in where they were offering PD for the administrators and PD for the teachers. That has moved on. We don't have that anymore. We're out of any type of classification from DESE, and we don't require assistance or intervention. Moving down, reason for classification. We're making moderate progress toward our targets. So the targets that are set against ourselves and what we need to do to get better, we're making moderate progress. And our progress towards our targets is 46%, which gives us that moderate progress rating. I took the liberty of comparing us to 3 surrounding schools that are in our DOT, our schools that are similar to us, from amount of students to type of student that's at the school to income, and I pulled up Chelsea, Revere, and Malden. So Chelsea, their overall classification, where we don't require assistance and intervention, they do require assistance or intervention from the state. And they're also, it's interesting that they're a federal designation for comprehensive support of their school. So not only do they have state designation, they have federal designation. They're in the lowest 10% of the schools of the state. Their progress towards targets is 31%, ours is 46%. Their chronic absenteeism rate is 38.4%. And out of a possible 44 points to earn in all the categories from that, all students, they earn 25. And their graduation rate is also something they're cited for, only graduating 61.8% of their students. There was actually an interesting article in the Globe on Sunday that if anyone would like to discuss some of that too, with some of the schools that are more affluent with students that don't have money, it's really interesting to look at some of the graduation rates that are going on and what's happening in schools. Next, Revere. Revere does not have an overall classification, but they do have limited or no progress when it comes to reason for classification because they're only making 20% progress towards their targets, so they're in the red there. Revere has reduced their chronic absenteeism rate significantly. We've done some back and forth speaking with the principal over in Revere to tell us how he's done that, and we're trying to consider that as we move forward in the future. Malden, overall classification, they do require assistance or intervention from DESE or the state. They're in need of focused support because students with disabilities, low testing numbers. Progress towards targets, only 17%. Again, ours is at 46. Their chronic absenteeism rate is at 32.1%, and they only earn 14 out of 44 points for all students. At Everett High School, we earn 26 out of 44 points. So just from a comparison to some of the local schools, that's where we stand when we're looking at the type of district that we are. The next page, as everyone knows, or hopefully everyone knows by now, we're on to the academies here at Everett High School to really address curriculum and instruction. One of the things that has been proven to reduce chronic absenteeism rates is this application of the academy model. So we kind of have looked into the future a couple years ago as to where we were going. We knew this would be something that we need desperately here at Everett High School. So we want to prepare all of our students to be college and career ready. We want to boost our SAT scores up to at least 1010. Right now, I believe they're at 990 was the score area that Everett High School falls into. We want them to complete our college and career continuum. We want them to be driven and resilient, whether they complete their pathway or they make a 95% daily attendance rate. We want them to be future ready. Dr. Easy has been instrumental in getting some of the digital projects that are going on with our students that we have coming up this week to create their senior capstone project or to put stuff in a portfolio. We're making sure that our students are future ready. And community connected and globally aware. We want students to requiring them to complete so many hours in their pathway, so when they go out into the community, when they go out to work, when they go to college, they really have some hands-on experience. That's where we're moving with Everett High School. We're hoping the academies, and we've already seen wonderful things going on with the academies, from reports to ourselves, to teachers, to students. They really enjoy being part of something instead of being a number in 2,000 students. And you're welcome to talk to any of the students. Please come up at any time and see. It's not absolutely perfect, but I think we've done a good job in rolling it out and trying to make it better. We presented our school improvement plan earlier in the evening. If there are any questions on the school improvement plan, I'd be happy to answer them at this point.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Barrows.
Thank you, Mr. Norman. Actually, I do not have a question. Could you, just for the members of the public who are watching us, name the academies? I actually have some parents that sometimes ask me.
So we have construction, machining, and architectural design is one academy. We have science, technology, and engineering. Engineering is the second academy. Business, law, and hospitality is the third academy. And the fourth one is health and public service. The fifth one, which is not 10, 11, and 12, is grade 9, the freshman experience. So everyone starts with the freshman experience. They learn a little bit about CTE, they learn a little bit about careers, they learn some soft skills to move into the job market, and then 10, 11, 12, they pick one of their 4 academies to feel a piece of. And if you've been around the school, from the lights that are out in the hallway, to doors, to what the front steps will soon have, we're really working at putting the branding of the academies out there so everyone knows what's going on. If you visit the Everett Public Schools website, there's a video that was created by the students that explains what's going on with the academy, so please feel free to click on that under Academies under the Everett High School website. It'll teach you all the information that you need to know about the academies here at the high school.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Realo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for the public, Mr. Norman, could you please explain, define what chronic absenteeism?
Sure. Chronic absenteeism is students that are absent for more than 10% of the school year. So an easy way to look at it is this. If you are a student and you have 2 absences a month, that puts you in that chronic absenteeism list, 9 months, 180 days in the school year. So it doesn't seem like a lot when you break it down that way. But the chronic absenteeism piece as defined by Massachusetts is that it's at 10%.
Okay, and as a follow-up to that, I know that this data was accumulated through last school year, so it's not indicative of what's going on this year. Am I correct?
That is correct. So,
Okay.
but with kind of a caveat there is that it takes a little bit for this to be installed for actually to have the effect. We're still in the infancy stages of the program being implemented because we started with last year's freshmen who are now sophomores, and within the next couple of years, we're hoping we'll really start to see some of that payoff with the reduction of chronic absenteeism.
And my third follow-up
Sure.
is with the career technical, with the academy model, and making sure that students can be engaged with a career path that they choose. Are we starting to see, you can just say if it's just with your viewpoint of what you've seen, are we starting to see a decline in the absentee rate?
I still think it's a little bit too early. I think that for the students, and actually, I wish I spoke to someone else earlier, that what we do see is the pathway classes for students, they're getting really good grades. With some of the other classes that are non-pathway, those grades are a little bit lower. So when the interest is there, the students are really working hard to make their grades better with the pathway classes. So that is something that we have seen.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
From the chair, someone approached me a little while ago, and I don't even remember what context it was in, but the question was posed to me, do we do anything to follow our graduates after they leave as to their success rates? I mean, it sounds like you've got an answer, Mr. Nolan.
No, I don't have an answer. I
Okay.
can tell you what I. So the state tracks state schools. They don't track private universities. So when a student goes on and they enroll in a state school, whether it's a 2-year or 4-year, the state tracks that. We don't track students to go to private universities.
Okay.
So it's interesting because we spoke at the meeting a little bit earlier about the article that was in the Globe about low-income students in the more affluent cities and the struggles that they have attending college. When you apply that to our city, you can multiply that exponentially about the struggles that our students have going to college. We have plenty of students that can get to college and excel, but it's all of the outside factors with jobs and money and not being prepared in some ways because of all the things that they face that really hurt some of our students. And I believe if you look at our rates of students that are enrolled, they are a lot higher than the stuff that was published in the paper for the more affluent communities.
Okay.
So it's very interesting, but the state does track state schools.
Okay, I'm just wondering if there's any way of, I don't know, putting together, and again, I'm not laying this at your feet, I'm just thinking in terms of the committee, the administration, that in terms of whether it's survey form or whatever, to keep track. I mean, we have so many people, I know last year at the graduation, the number of students that actually entered the military and things like that, just in terms of, you know, where does everybody go when they leave Everett High School, when they leave, you know, we're basically, as I see the academy, it sounds like we're sort of, and when I went to the academy meeting with the gentleman that I mentioned from Tennessee there, we were sort of getting sold the academy, you know, setup, and it sounded exciting and everything, but I mean, I'm just looking to see where exactly everybody does end up after they leave Everett High School, you know, down the road, you know, in terms of where we could actually come in. I know it'd be a difficult thing to track completely, but just the idea that, you know, whether people, the number that go and actually graduate from college, the number that go in the military, make it a career, whatever, just things like that. I mean, it may be something that isn't possible, but like I said, this person was an extremely intelligent person and just was concerned that, you know, in a community, we do focus on education, but, you know, does our education stop once they walk out the door and get their diploma? I mean, that's sort of what was presented to me, and I said it was a very, very interesting concept, the way it was presented to me. Ms. Scott, yeah.
So our Director of Guidance is here in the audience. I don't know if she can add anything to the conversation. I'm requesting permission to bring her forward into the discussion.
Second.
Ms. McCormick.
Gonna approve it.
Hi.
I mean, is my question actually going off? I mean, I feel like I've headed off
So the
track
good
here.
news is that you've purchased Naviance, and the Naviance has a part of their portal. It's something called the Alumni Tracker, and we are using it.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
we just use that to for the Perkins grant, because part of the Perkins grant money is that you track the students that have used even one piece of material from the Perkins grant. So for the first year, we are tracking the students from like 2017, 18, and 19.
Excellent.
So I can make a couple of you an account if you'd like, so that you can track that.
No, that sounds like something that, no, I mean, it sounds like something, a presentation before the school committee. I think that's, yeah, I think the message is, especially in a community, you know, is that, you know, we don't, you know, once you graduate, it's not like,
Right.
okay, good luck, see you later, and close the door. It should be that we're still involved and the resources are still here.
And
for people.
students do come back, they come back to see people all the time if they're not happy where they are and how we can help them to change their goals.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's several former students I know right here in front of us, so.
Right.
Sure. But, oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just so like Ms. McCormick said, we do have plenty of students that come back. Every day we have students that walk in and say, hey, thank you for this, can you help me with this? How do we move through this? We just had someone come back the other day that was unbelievable. We do have lots of students, just anecdotally, of people that have gone on, like Brian Sherko is now a medical doctor. Went to school here at Everett High School, played football here. He works at Children's Hospital. He was actually my daughter's helping out the physician to learn to be a physician. We have plenty of nurses, families of nurses that have come through Everett High School and Miss Lomas's program that have gone through Salem State and become nurses right away. We have a multitude of teachers that have graduated from big universities and come back to Everett to teach here at Everett High School too. So I would love to open that up a little bit more. I know there's been talk in the past about alumni Facebook pages and getting more students involved. We'd like to explore that as well, because they'll be one of our biggest assets moving forward as we need more business partners coming in.
Good. Yeah, Mr. Norman, thank you. I think that's a good question, Mr. Chairman, because I think the success we've had at Everett High School, certainly with the academies and the advisory boards, really was generated from Everett people. Graduated Everett High School and have continued to give back to the community. I think last year we had about well over 100 business partners that I'd say a great majority of them are Everett graduates. So the one thing that's positive for all of us is how many Everett students, graduates of Everett High School, come back to give to the community. I know Mr. Parker wants to kind of tap into that alumni network, and we certainly have made that one of our goals, because I know Mr. Parker brought it up to us last year, and I think it's a great idea.
Well, thank you, because I've been accused of having incumbent deranged syndrome for talking about the alumni, so I'm glad to see you have that same syndrome, so I appreciate it.
Fellow elected official, I guess.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? Ms. Cardell?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Norman, just if we could, going back to the chronic absenteeism, some of the people watching right now may not have seen the earlier committee meeting. Could you just explain what we were talking about online programs, or when they're away for any length of time for any reason?
Sure, we'd
Thank
love
you.
to, with the help of the school committee as we move forward, develop some partnerships with online programs, so when students, for whatever reason is, whether it's medical or a family issue or a housing issue, to be able to offer them something to continue learning while they're not here at Everett High School. We want to explore the partnership of online learning with the program so we can give students that opportunity to learn even if they can't make it. There are many reasons that students can't come to school, but we want to be able to help those students so we can get them to graduate, so we give them an opportunity as they move forward in life. And that's our hope. We'll do a little more research with programs in Saugus and Revere that have helped reduce their chronic absenteeism rate through some online programs. We do have grade recovery things that we put into place, but we haven't been so big on what's going on for right now for students who need help. And we will improve that.
Thank you. Thank you very
welcome.
much.
Any other questions? Mr. Elam?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we take the subcommittee report of the Committee of the Whole out of order at this point in time.
Second.
A motion made and seconded to take the subcommittee report of the Committee of the Whole that was held this evening at 6 o'clock. And
No,
go forward with it.
you're just all in favor.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
I'd like
Thank
to make a motion, we waive the reading and accept the minutes as written for the subcommittee in the whole.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to waive the minutes of the reading of the minutes of the Committee of the Whole from this evening. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
And I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Everett High School School Improvement Plan as presented by Mr. Norman
Second.
and his staff.
Motion made and seconded to accept the Everett High School School Improvement Plan as presented by Mr. Norman tonight. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Before we depart, can I just first say thank you? And just a reminder that the school musical is this week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, once on this island, 6:30 here at Everett High School, first musical in a long time. So members at home, please join us. You'll enjoy the show thoroughly if you can come here one of those nights.
I also want to make mention that we're having our annual senior interview day on Wednesday. It's a very important day for seniors. So if you guys are available, want to come out for that, that'd be very helpful for seniors.
What time?
Times
It's
on
so-
the, time
6:30 start time.
And 8 o'clock start time for the interview day.
AM.
AM, not PM. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the support.
And the Thanksgiving Day game.
Back to the regular order of business, Ms. Scott, yes.
Item number 2 is the update on the homeless. Mr. Abramsky, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Gauthier. Before Mr. Delgazo gets the slide presentation ready for the community home, I'd like to give a brief update. I gave a lot of information to you in your packet on the homelessness. And so far this year, we've transported 55 homeless students and 6 DCF foster care students to school. And as many of you know from being here in the past, homeless students are any individual who lack a regular, fixed, adequate nighttime residency or have a primary nighttime residence in a supervised public or private placement. Any students who fall under the McKinney-Vento Homeless Act have a right to go to school in either the community they're residing at that time or where their last school of origin was. So if somebody was attending Everett High School, lived in the city of Everett, became homeless, was placed in a shelter in Boston, they have a right to go to school in either city. I'll give an example of one I just had today that I had a preschool, a family in Waltham placed in a hotel that previously resided in Everett, and because Waltham charges for preschool, they elected for the preschool student to come to Everett, but the other students to go to school in Waltham because our preschool cost is a lot less, and we have to allow that to happen. I mean, Waltham does split the cost, but we have to allow that to happen under the law. Presently, there are 46 homeless students in either sheltered or scattered sites. There's only 4 in hotels or motels, 5 that are considered doubled up, maybe living with a relative or a friend, and 6 in DCF foster care. Some of the districts that we're sharing the cost with are Boston, Chelsea, Framingham, Lynn. We have students as far away as Lawrence, Lowell, close Malden, Medford, Peabody, Revere, Somerville, and Reading. So the 2 farthest really are the 3 are Framingham, Lawrence, and Lowell. We transport kids from those communities every day. If you go to the first slide on the screen so the community at home can see, also, in August, September, we transported 54 homeless students to school at a cost of $65,000, $65,895. We're able to bill out a little bit over $28,000 for a net cost to the Everett Public Schools in the city of Everett of a little bit over $37,000. In October, we added 1 additional student, so we transported 55 students, for a total cost of $68,810.50, able to bill out almost $31,000, and we had a net cost to the school department of $37,825.50. Now, it's very difficult because you don't know what's going to happen, but I estimate over the course of the next 8 months, probably transport close to 80 homeless students because they come and go throughout the year, an additional cost of approximately $426,047. Remember, that's just an estimate. We'll bill out another $183,476 for an additional cost to the Everett Public Schools of $245,570. So in the homelessness, for the year, I estimate approximately 80 students, total cost of $560,752, able to bill out approximately $242,000 for a net to the school department of $318,000. Now just remember, this doesn't include the DCF foster care students, which I'll get to on the next slide. In August, September, we transported 5 students for a total cost of a little bit over $4,000. We can't bill out DCF foster care. The district where they're going to school has to eat the entire cost. In October, we added 1 additional student for 6 students, a little bit over $7,000. I estimate for the year an additional $36,000 for a total cost of $48,000. Now, if you go to the next page, and this is important to remember here, there are 80 students that I expect to transport throughout the year in the homeless category for approximate cost of $560,000, approximately 24 DCF foster care students for a little bit over $48,000. So our total number is about 100, a little bit over 100, approximately 104, at a total cost of $610,000. Now you got to remember, this is an estimate. We're able to bill out $242,000 for a total net cost of about $366,988. Right now, this would be approximately $84,000 less than last year's total. But if you go back to the first slide or the first page in your presentation, where in October I had said the cost was $68,810. Since I put this presentation together last week, I've also got additional bills in on the homelessness, so it actually is about $74,000, so it's already up $5,000. Take that by 8 months, that's another $40,000. So it's very fluid. So you can say inwards, probably spend in approximately $650,000 to $700,000 on this cost. You know, it's a little less than last year, but not too much. I mean, usually I give you another update in February and March, so I will give you another update as, you know, money is expended or money goes down. But if we have a drastic increase, obviously I'll be back right away, but if it stays the same, that's what I expect anyway, around $650,000 to $700,000 for the year.
Ms. Cadell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Obrensky. Isn't there a time period where we are responsible for that if they've actually moved to like Waltham? They were here, and then they moved to Waltham. Now a child's coming here. I thought it was only 6 months that we had to pay for their education.
No, I have one family particularly that's been in a shelter in Lynn for approximately 7 years. As long as I've known them, they've never had a permanent residence.
So they're still...
They're still
in there.
transported, even though they've lived in this shelter in Lynn for 7 years. I've sent the attendance officers probably 10 different times to that residence to ensure, because it's a scattered site, it's not a permanent apartment. So they are allowed to come to school and everything. They've been there about 7 years.
From the chair, and we get these numbers, and I have no idea why I always thought in terms of high school students. I just never thought in terms of a preschool student. You know, it just...
Well, it's the family
just
that
like-
becomes homeless, Mr. Aprizay,
Exactly,
so
right.
it could be, you could have multiple
Right,
siblings.
Right, now, I was just thinking in terms of like, say, argument's sake, so in the situation you're talking about, there's several family members at the site in Lynn. Now, do we get, I mean, if we're transporting, like, say, 3 family members at once to somewhere, we still get billed individually for each?
We get billed, I should have brought that with me.
No,
I may have it, but
Okay,
the way the transportation company works now, they bill you like, I'll make this up, for example, in Lynn, it may be $100 for the first kid. They're bringing the second kid, it may be 40, the third kid will be like 20, and the fourth kid will be like
Okay,
20.
so
So
there
they
is sort of
reduce
a
the rate.
formula.
Yeah, they do
Okay.
reduce the rate.
Very
And when I bill the other community, I bill them that way, and they pay half the cost. So if it's, for that, whatever and they put multiple families in transportation vehicles, so we're not just transporting one family.
excellent, okay, thank you. Any other questions? Ms. Cadell?
For clarification, so they're chipping in on the transportation cost, but not on the education cost, that fully...
The education
lies on
cost is
Everett.
totally ours, yes.
Okay. So then there's no
We report them
termination
on
of
our October 1st report, so we'll get the money for them. And if I'm getting billed by, because I get bills in from, say, Boston or other communities also, if they're reporting the student, they get credit for the student on their October 1st report of their Chapter 70 money or their foundation budget, and we only get the cost of the transportation.
Thank you.
Mr. Parker?
And I could just add, so the split that we do with other school districts, that's fairly new, in the sense that it only happened under the present auditor, Suzanne Bump, because she's the one that determined that it was an unfunded mandate, so therefore,
Right.
because before that, we were paying for all of it.
Let me explain that a little bit.
Okay.
So the city of Everett has been really good to us in regards to homeless transportation. And whatever we take in, they let us keep in a revolving account. So they don't have to once the budget is set. They've been pretty good in allowing us to keep that approximately $200,000, maybe $225,000 a year. So we have in a revolving account. And that money that you're talking about, Mr. Parker, actually, it's not the full percentage. It's not funded at 100% by the state right now. I believe last year it was 38 or 39%, and that money will go back to the general fund. We don't get that, but we're doing all right with the revolving account the way it's working right now.
But at one time, as I recall, and correct if I'm wrong, we used to eat up
Yeah.
all the cost, and we didn't share it with the city that was housing.
That's correct. That's correct. We weren't getting anything until I think it might have been Rep. Speriotis, I might be saying the name wrong, from Danvers, got involved in this because they had a lot of hotels in Danvers at the time that they were putting students in. So he got a hold of the auditor, and the auditor did come out saying it was unfunded mandate. They had to fund it. I believe it's funded at 38 or 39% right now. The last fiscal year. I don't know what it'll be this year.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Barrows?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Mr. Obrensky. This is very sad that we have, has nothing to do with the Everett schools, but that we have 100 kids who don't have a place to call home, right? And it's interesting that when you talk to many people in Everett, sometimes people don't realize. I've talked to people about this because it is an issue very dear to me, as it is to all of us. And a lot of people like, what? Homeless kids in Everett? I was like, yes. A lot of people don't realize. And one thing that I'd like to bring up is that, the business community, there are ways that we can help these students, right? The Everett Public Schools would be more than happy to accept donation to design programs, which we actually have a pilot program with the grant that we have approved recently to help these students. That tiny grant that we brought last school year, according to Youth Harbors, about 10 students receive assistance, only one of them did not graduate. So if we provide housing to these students, and I say we, not we as a school, because we can't afford that, but if we find creative ways to do it, it is also another way to reduce the dropout rates for these students. So in a nutshell, it's really sad that we are in Everett, right by Boston, and we have 100 kids that we drive to shelter. Thank God that we drive them, but it's really sad.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes, Mr. Abramsky.
Mr. Philip Rondegero, who now runs the Gateway to College program but does a lot of work with the homeless in Everett, some of the biggest problems they have is making the security deposit when they're able to find an apartment with first and last month and a security deposit. So Mr. Rondegero does use the grant that Mr. Barros was just talking about. He also works with Jerry Navarra, the Health and Human Services Director for the city, because the city has some funds so that if they're able to at least get the first and last month, a lot of them can actually afford the rent on a month-to-month basis. It's just hard to get that $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 together at one time. So there is a collaboration going on between the school department and the city.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Shaw.
Thank you. Just as a point of clarification, Mr. Barros, the 80, which is a very sad number, is actually a low estimate because that only includes the students that we transport from city to city. It doesn't include those students that live in Everett, continue to live in Everett, but are homeless, doubled up with a relative or a friend. So that number is much larger than that 80.
Oh, yeah, no, I know, yeah.
Just as a point for the viewing public.
For the public, yeah. So it's higher if we compare with the what we call surf coaching, right? That
Right,
you always leave
correct.
in a friend tonight and the other friend the other night. So this number would be even higher than that.
This number, yeah, it's much higher than this, our actual homeless population.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Abramsky.
Item number 3, notification of the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship Awards. Mr. Shaw.
Thank you, Mrs. Gauthier. In 2004, the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship was created. The scholarship gives us an opportunity to recognize and reward Everett High School's highest achieving students. The scholarship is for all 4 years the students enroll in a Massachusetts state college or university. If a student is enrolled at the University of Massachusetts, they will receive an average of $1,575 per year. If they're at a state university, they will receive on average $1,036 per year. In any community college, they'll receive on average $740 in tuition reimbursement per year. To be eligible for the scholarship, a high school student must meet the following 3 criteria. Score advanced performance level on one of the 3 high school state assessment tests in English language arts, math, or science, technology, and engineering. Then they must score at the proficient level or higher on the remaining 2 high school state assessments. And they have to have combined scores from the 3 tests that place them in the top 25% of students in the graduating class in their district. So I'm pleased to announce that we have 120 students here at Everett High School who have earned the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship, and we'll be formally recognizing those students at a ceremony that we take place in the spring. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Quick. Something was supposed to be mailed with this, which I didn't get. It didn't come in my... Did you get?
I don't think there was anything mailed. I didn't.
No, it said mailed.
Does it say mailed on it?
It says mailed, but,
No,
okay.
There wasn't a list or anything.
All right.
I'd like to take items 4 through 8 collectively, and I'm requesting favorable action.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to take items 4 through 8 and approve for favorable action. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Item number 4 is a request from Ms. Tammy Turner, Director of Athletics, to apply for the eligibility to the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association, MIAA, for 8th grade boys to participate on the junior varsity hockey team. Item number 5 is a request from Mr. Alexander Norman, Principal for the Caverian School Council in PTO, to host the annual Breakfast with Santa on Saturday, December 7th, 2019, from 9 to 11 a.m. Item number 6, a request from Ms. Denise Hanlon, Principal for the Webster School, to hold the annual Breakfast with Santa on Saturday, December 7th, 2019, from 9 to 11 a.m. Item number 7 is the request from Ms. Teresa Tringali, Principal, to use the Madeline English School on December 10th, 2019, from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. for the Madeline English Polar Express Family Night. Item number 8, acceptance of the following school council meeting minutes. Madeline English School, October 30th, 2019. Parlin School, September 30th, 2019. And Whittier School, November 30th, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. The item, I'm sorry.
Just a
Mr.
couple
Parker.
questions regarding number 4, hockey. Are we still co-op in the program with Mystic Valley?
Say that again?
Are we still co-op in the program?
Yes.
Okay. And any progress or thoughts about bringing a girls' program back? Is it feasible yet, or any discussion?
I haven't had a conversation with Ms. Turner in
Okay.
regards to number of students interested, but I could if you'd like.
All right, I'm just curious in case it came up in conversation, so I'll talk to
She
her.
has discussed it, but nothing, I don't think she has the interest right now.
Numbers.
Yeah, okay.
It's the numbers.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Roman numeral 5, items submitted by school committee members. Item number 1, to select a member of the Everett School Committee for the Shore Education Collaborative Board of Directors, Mr. Elah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, one of my responsibilities as a member of the school committee is to serve on the board of directors for Shore Educational Collaborative. Over the last 21 years, we've had 2 members from Everett serve on that committee, on that board of directors. From 1998 to 2007, it was Mr. Alcanada, and I've held the position since 2007, and I've been chairman of the board of directors since 2013. We have 9-member districts: Malden, Medford, Chelsea, Revere, Saugus, Winthrop, Somerville, Everett, and also Cambridge, but usually our representative from Cambridge doesn't show. We have to have monthly meetings. The meetings are held on the second Tuesday of the month during the school year. We get the summer off. The students that the Shore Collaborative provides services in threefold manner. First is the special education school, the Owen School, which is right down in the end of Union Street, right by McDonald's over in Chelsea, where we provide educational services to the students with the highest of needs. Many of those students have physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech services, nursing services during the course of the day. And we need to make sure that we continue to advocate for these children. Currently, Shore is expanding. They are expanding to increase capacity. They're moving, hopefully they moved last week. They moved their administrative offices and their adult program down to Crescent Ave, where they just have a new building to provide those programs. That's the first area. They also have an adult program that are in 3 sites in Chelsea, Peabody, and Woburn, servicing over 350 clients, and it's primarily funded through Medicaid funding. And then the third area is their administrative offices. And since I've been on the school committee, they've been doing all our Medicaid billing for us. We do pay a fee for that Medicaid billing, but they've done it, and we've never had a problem receiving it. as a physical therapist, I've had a Medicaid number in the past, and I know that you have to dot your i's and cross the t's, or else Medicaid will send the forms back, and then you have to redo them, tenfold. And they do a wonderful job. So I'm just saying, if anybody is interested in assuming the position of being Everett's representative to the collaborative, just please contact me, and I'll let you know what the meeting is about. It's a wonderful group. You get to meet colleagues from other cities and towns, and you get to share a lot of similar problems and a lot of successes, and it's a great group of people, and something that I'll truly miss going forward starting in January. So I just want to put that out there for informational purposes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ela.
Motion to refer back to sponsor.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to refer back to sponsor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Number 2, School Finance Review Commission minutes. Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as a recommendation of the task force, we had to share the minutes of the School Finance Review Commission with all of you. It's in your packet. It's FYI only. I will add that the next chairman will have to appoint a new member of this commission to fulfill the vacancy of Mr. Ela. So something else for all the members to think about if you want to expand some of your responsibilities. And the last thing I want to point out is since it's the end of the term, regarding items in subcommittee, unless they're actioned, they will die. So you can either let them die and then reintroduce them for next year. So I just want to bring that to your attention if there's something there that you wanted to resurrect. That's it? Thank you. That was it. For informational purposes only.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Subcommittee reports. We did committee whole. Committee on Finance, Mr. Ela.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a kind of a long format tonight. I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading and accept Can I have a speech therapist?
I'll
Accept the
second that.
meeting's minutes as written.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded to waive the reading of the minutes of the Committee on Finance and accept them as written. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
The first one is I'd like to make a motion that we approve the position of a financial analyst for the Everett Public Schools to work with Mr. Obremski and also to work with the city as far as analyzing budgets. And this also is an item that came from the task force, and I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Obremski at this point in time.
Thank you, Mr. Ela. Mrs. Gauthier and Mr. Shaw and myself did work on the specifications for this job that I put in front of you tonight. It will not be part of a union position. It will be a non-union confidential position. They will know a lot about what goes on. We did have a conversation with our attorney, Robert Galvin, in regard to this position. He didn't see any problem creating it. He asked us to bring it in front of you so that you people knew that we were asking for this position. A lot of this responsibility is the responsibility of Mrs. Jagello at this point. In the summer, when we hired the Human Resources Director, with the background that the Human Resources Director had, she took on a role other than the previous director who had a lot of background in payroll. So Ms. Wahlberg is handling a lot of non-payroll things that happen in the school system right now. So I took on a lot of the responsibility on the payroll side. Mrs. Jagello doesn't. A lot of the people who work in payroll didn't understand how to do payroll sheets from the get-go. So, I've done a lot of that responsibility. So we're just asking to create this so that going forward, this person will have a couple of months to work with Ms. Jagello before Ms. Jagello retires. Sometime in February, I don't know the exact date, I think it's near the end of February. And if the pleasure would be of the board and we can get to that at that point, Ms. Jagello is willing to come back a little bit part-time if the person's not as familiar with the job by that point in time. So we're just asking to create this position.
I'll move that we do. Just one question.
I'll second his motion.
Mr. Appice.
We've got questions.
Oh,
Mr. Parker.
Thank you. Mr. Bremski, so here we are, current fiscal year, we just reduced our budget by $2 million. We've got a new position. This is one of the things that the task force spoke about in their report. Where is the funding coming from?
I will, if you don't want to vote on this at this time, I can go over where the funding's coming, and we can vote on it afterwards, whatever the board's pleasure is be. I can explain it to Mr. Parker in the community home of the board. You take this particular sheet right here that I passed out to all of you this evening. It's in front of you, formerly called the burn rate, or where our projections are. The last one we did was early in October. We had a special meeting down the school administration building in early October, and then we brought it before the full board at the next meeting. We gave you projections at that time. We anticipated only a budget balance after we purchased some more things, hired some outsourced translations, and increased the futures contract, and gave some more money to the after-school program. We projected a budget balance at that time of about $200,000. If you see on this, it's almost $2.4 million right now. If you look on the right-hand column all the way to the side, it's almost $2.4 million. The reason for that being is we have additional money in instructional spending. Instructional is general expenditures and teachers. We have money in administration. When we did the payroll the last time, we actually miscalculated the administrator's payroll to be paid 4 times in the summer when it doesn't, so we picked up a significant amount of money there. When we came before you, also, Mr. Parker, we had about $1.3 million that we put forward to you to hire additional staff. This time, we've only spent about $500,000 of that money. We are still looking, but unable to find the qualified, experienced teachers that we want, or individuals that we want, because some are para positions. And that leaves a balance of about $2.4 million. So we have plenty of money within the budget. Most of it's coming from instructional personnel services, Mr. Parker, if you look at it. But we do have plenty of money in the budget.
All right, so obviously this is a conversation that we've had before regarding the budget balance. And it's also somewhat of an existing position, so there's a line item there, it's just changing the name, increasing the salary a little bit. So I'm comfortable voting for this tonight. So.
Mr. Barros, I think, was
Just
next.
a quick question, is this position, if we approve, will be housed in central administration?
Yes.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay.
Ms. Cadell.
Thank you. It would be, for you, too, Mr. Obrowski, it would be better to do this now if we're all comfortable with your explanation on the funding, because that gives you time to go out.
What we would like to do, if you approve this evening, tomorrow morning, Mrs. Gauthier, Mr. Shaw, and I would put this out to all the individuals in the school system. We would also put it on some websites, some popular websites for this type of person. If you look at the background, we're looking for an accounting type person. So we put on a website where you will be able to find those type of individuals. I did a lot of research. We also included the Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Demas, in these job specs to look them over, just to make sure that he was comfortable with what we were hiring, because we do a lot of work with City Hall on a daily basis in that department.
Okay, I want to make a recommendation, and only because when I read this, it was like reading my own job description pretty much when I was in the military. Maybe you could think about even reaching out to veterans that are looking for jobs. And I mean, because this truly was thing I did in logistics and financial analysis and budgeting and all. This was almost like the exact description. So I just made me think of that. It might be a good place to go with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe we had a motion seconded for, to approve this position. I think, I don't know if it's necessary, but I think we'll do a roll call vote on this.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yep.
Mrs. Cadell?
Yes.
Mr. Panarisi?
Yes.
Mr. LaMonica?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Elam?
Yes.
Mr. Barros?
Yes.
Mr. Aprizay?
Yes. 8 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. The motion to create the position has passed.
Also in your packet, I gave you an update on positions that were asked for. You can see it's colored in green and yellow, and I'd like to review that for you at this time.
Sure.
This is similar to what was passed out in early October also. I gave you an update. The green positions are additional positions that the principals would like to hire as of today. We met with Mrs. Gothi and Mr. Shaw, myself, met with the principals this morning. These are positions they feel they need. There's plenty of money within this particular line item, because we had almost 1.3 million. Like I said, we've only spent about $500,000. We'd like to include one position that was left off this list, and I apologize. The financial analyst isn't on here, because I wanted to make sure you approved it first, because it was a new position. And Mrs. Gauthier, in conversation with Ms. Braga and Mr. Norm, would like to add an additional culinary arts position in culinary arts here at the high school. And we will make sure that we do not go over that $1.3 million in this particular, without coming back to you, because there is plenty of more money within the existing overall budget, but we would come back and let you know where we would be taking it from if we were to go over this. But as everyone knows, the longer you go within the school year, the salaries get prorated. So that's why there's additional money for these additional positions in green that I have. And the yellow ones were existing individuals that worked for us previously. We just transferred them to a different school or to a different position. So their money is not calculated in that last column, because it was money that was already on the payroll.
Okay.
That's why I have transfer next to it. And one more thing, Mr. Aprise, anyone have questions on that?
I'd like to make a motion on the positions.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a motion that we create the 9 new positions, which was 1 paraprofessional, 2 special education teachers, 1 culinary arts teacher, 1 substitute teacher, 1 substitute clerk, 1 district-wide guidance counselor, and 2 custodians.
And the 2 additional ones that they asked for.
Well, they are included in that.
Well, they include, okay, I'll
Yeah,
second.
just include them.
And they are, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Barrows.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And they are all under, financially, this 2.3 that you just mentioned. So
Oh,
there is
yeah.
nothing that's going to go beyond that.
Nothing,
All right.
no.
Thank you.
Do we get a second on that?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve these 9 positions that have been outlined, including those 2 additional ones just mentioned by Mr. Abramsky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have.
And the last piece that I passed out to you is the budget, I'm going to call it a budget variance. Additional positions we added, or we transferred people from school to school, or we had people resign, and we filled the positions with somebody else. If you go to the last column, it shows you the variance comparing from October 23rd to October 14th. So you really just need to look at the last 3 columns.
November 14th.
Yeah, November 14th, I'm sorry. So that just tells you the variance from each one, and if you go to the 3rd and the 4th pages, it gives you the list of all the, actually, the 4th and the 5th page, I'm sorry, 4th and 5th page, gives you all the positions that either somebody resigned, we transferred a teacher, or how all these variances came about. And we'll give you this on a monthly basis, from here on in till the end of the year.
So I'd like to make a motion that we accept the position control statement, which is dated for, as through 11/14/2019.
Second.
On the motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah,
And
Mr. Park.
and if I could just point out, again, going back to the task force recommendations, it talked about better reporting, and what you just witnessed and presented by Mr. Abramsky is just that, so thank you.
Quick question, just, I mean, in terms of transferring a teacher, and when you transfer a teacher, doesn't someone have to take the teacher's place?
In some cases, in the preschool area, Mr. Aprise, 2 preschool areas, I don't know what you're particularly looking at, but we closed a couple of preschool rooms because the enrollment was low, so we're able to move them to other overcrowded rooms in the school system in which they were certified for.
Okay, so they weren't technically, they weren't being utilized, but they got transferred.
Right.
Okay.
Right, the enrollment in preschool was low in those areas, so
Okay.
we made a decision where we had an overcrowded, I forget exactly where they got transferred to, maybe a kindergarten that was overcrowded, so we could split that kindergarten up.
Okay.
I think one went to the Lafayette.
One was
My-
first
One was a first grade, I think, at the Lafayette, and one was a kindergarten, I think, at the Pollen, if I remember
Okay.
correctly.
No, okay. No, I was just trying to envision a teacher getting moved and somehow it not affecting something else. Okay, all right. So, motion was made and seconded to basically accept this report?
No, accept the position control, yeah.
Accept the position control report. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, just for informational purposes, as you can see, our budget to actual expenses, our current burn rate is at 22% through 11/18. The burn rate is 37% when encumbrances are included, and based on where we should be in this year, our burn rate should be at 42%. So as Mr. Obremski said, that we do have this fund balance that we can use, so we can hire these new employees, and we can also look at getting things moving in the right direction. So that's just for informational purposes.
Very good. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve bills and payrolls in the amount of $1,171,119.21.
Seconded, of which 56% is special education.
Motion been made and seconded to accept bills and payrolls in the amount of $1,171,119.21. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
And I'd like to make a motion that we pay bills and payrolls in the amount of $1,171,119.21.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to pay bills and payrolls in the amount of $1,171,119.21. Roll call vote, please, Laura.
Mr. Federici?
Yes.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Elam?
Yes.
Mr. Barros?
Yes.
Mrs. Cottrell?
Yes.
Mr. Lamonaga?
Yes.
Mr. Zani?
Yes, 8 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
I'd like to move adjournment, wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and remind them that there is an Everett High home Thanksgiving game this year. First time in 4 or 5 years.
In a while, I'll be,
I gotta try to figure that out. I think it's close to 10.
Huh?
I think it's close to 10.
10 years? Yeah. But there is a home game for Everett High Thanksgiving Day.
I will be on the shores of Winthrop on that morning. But, yes, from the entire school committee, happy Thanksgiving, a time of peace for everyone and family and joy. And we have motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
School committee meeting is adjourned.